Hey everyone! Tonight, we're going somewhere colder. Somewhere wind-stung and half-frozen, where the gods wore furs, drank too much, and expressed emotion primarily through violence and poetry. So, get comfortable, pull your blankets a little tighter, and let's drift north, far north, to the world of the Norse myths. A place where the universe itself was a tree, everything was slightly damp, and even the end of the world was treated with a sort of stoic shrug. The Norse cosmos was held together by one great thing, Yggdrasil, the world tree. It wasn't just any tree. It was the tree. A vast ash that stood at the center of everything, holding together the heavens, the earth, and the underworld, which is frankly an unreasonable amount of responsibility for a single plant. Its branches stretched across the sky, its roots burrowed deep into the realms below, and all of creation clung to it like moss on bark. You could say Yggdrasil was the Norse answer to what holds the universe up? Other cultures used turtles, pillars, or endless seas. The Norse looked at their landscape, rock, frost, the occasional birch, and said, yes, a tree. That'll do. It was an elegant metaphor, really. Trees grow, they rot, they fall, and yet their seeds begin again. It was the perfect symbol for a people who lived in cycles of light and darkness, life and death, harvest and hunger. At the very top of Yggdrasil sat an eagle. We don't know its name, which feels unfair given that the eagle apparently saw everything happening in the 9 worlds. Between its eyes sat a hawk named Vedrfolnir, whose main job seems to have been perching dramatically and possibly gossiping about the gods. Meanwhile, far below, gnawing endlessly at one of the tree's 3 roots, was a dragon, or maybe a serpent, named Nidhogg. Nidhogg spent eternity chewing on the tree and, occasionally, on the corpses of the wicked. It's the mythological equivalent of termites and Judgment Day rolled into one. And between these extremes, a regal eagle up top and a perpetually hungry dragon at the bottom, there lived a squirrel. Its name was Ratatosk, which translates roughly to drill tooth, a nickname that tells you everything you need to know. Ratatosk's main occupation was running up and down Yggdrasil, carrying insults between the eagle and the dragon. That's right. The cosmic messenger of the universe was basically an eternal instigator. The Norse understood something fundamental about existence. No matter how grand or divine, there will always be gossip. Yggdrasil's roots reached into 3 great wells. The first, deep in Asgard, was the Well of Urd, where the Norns, those enigmatic weavers of fate, sat spinning the destinies of gods and men. They watered the tree daily with the well's sacred waters, ensuring its survival. You can picture them there, 3 women, ancient and patient, dipping their urns and sprinkling the roots, maintaining the cosmic order with quiet diligence while the rest of creation loudly ignored their efforts. The second root reached into the land of the frost giants, Jotunheim, to the Well of Mimir. Mimir, the well's guardian, was known for his wisdom, which was ironic since he eventually lost his head. Literally. Odin, the chief god and part-time seeker of unnecessary knowledge, once visited Mimir and asked for a drink from the well. Mimir agreed, but only if Odin would pay the price of one of his eyes. Odin, being deeply committed to the whole wise old man aesthetic, plucked it out without complaint. From then on, he wore an eye patch and looked even more mysterious, though you'd think a god could have found a less gruesome way to symbolize curiosity. The third root stretched down into Niflheim, the realm of ice and death, where the dragon Nidhogg did his eternal chewing. Down there lay the spring called Hvergelmir, the bubbling cauldron from which many rivers flowed into the world. The name means boiling cauldron, though in the Norse imagination, that was probably more of a metaphor for endless freezing drizzle. And so, with these 3 roots, one in heaven, one in frost, one in shadow, the great tree bound the worlds together. The branches reached across the heavens to Asgard, home of the gods. Beneath them spread Midgard, the world of humans, safely enclosed by an enormous serpent named Jormungandr, who wrapped around it like a cosmic seatbelt. Beyond that lay the wild lands of giants, dwarves, elves, and assorted other beings who spent most of their time causing divine migraines. Life on the tree was constant. The gods held their meetings by its base, at Urd's well, where they'd gather daily to discuss pressing issues like, why does Loki keep setting things on fire? Or, who accidentally impregnated who this week? They'd ride their horses across the rainbow bridge, Bifrost, which connected the heavens to the mortal world, leaving scorch marks wherever it touched. It said that at dawn, their hooves thundered, their armor gleamed, and the sun rose behind them, a perfectly cinematic image, unless you stop to remember they were likely riding toward another day of bureaucratic chaos. The Norns, meanwhile, kept working in silence, weaving and watering, because someone had to. Even the gods couldn't escape fate, and the Norns didn't bother pretending they could. They carved runes into the tree's bark, symbols that defined destinies no one could read except them. Occasionally, Odin would try to peek, because of course he would. This, as usual, went poorly. In his endless quest for wisdom, Odin once decided to hang himself from Yggdrasil for 9 nights, pierced by his own spear, offering himself to himself, which is the sort of thing that sounds profound until you realize it's just extreme self-employment. He did this to learn the secrets of the runes, and, astonishingly, it worked. He came down wiser, though probably also quite sore, and shared the runes with humanity. Thus, writing, magic, and tattoo inspiration were born. The other gods had varying relationships with the tree. Thor, for instance, seemed barely aware of its metaphysical importance. His main interest was hitting things with his hammer and occasionally boasting about hitting things with his hammer. Loki, on the other hand, likely used Yggdrasil as a convenient escape route whenever one of his schemes went wrong, which was almost always. Freya, goddess of love and general chaos, probably just enjoyed the shade. What's strange and beautiful about Yggdrasil is that, despite being central to everything, it was not eternal. The myths say that it, too, would one day die. During Ragnarok, the final unraveling of the world. The tree would tremble, its branches would crack, the roots would shudder as the dragon below chewed harder, the eagle above screamed, and Ratatosk, ever the opportunist, would deliver his last and most unnecessary insult. Yet even then, amid the falling ash and smoke, a new world would rise from the old. 2 humans would hide within Yggdrasil's trunk, sheltered by the very thing that was dying, and from them, life would begin again. It's almost touching. The Norse had no illusions about permanence. Everything, even gods and worlds, ended eventually. But endings were just another phase of the cycle, as inevitable and natural as the passing of seasons. If you think about it, the Norse universe was both vast and small. Vast, because there were 9 worlds full of gods, giants, and creatures. Small, because all of it hung together on a single, living axis. It's a strangely intimate cosmos, one where even the gods could hear the scratching of a squirrel and the creaking of roots. There's something deeply human in that, the idea that existence itself might groan and sigh, not because it's broken, but because it's alive. It's tempting to imagine Yggdrasil at dusk, its great silhouette stretching against a dim northern sky. The air cold, but still. A soft wind stirs through its leaves, and the sound is the whisper of every story, every life, every forgotten name caught in its branches. Somewhere high above, the eagle stirs. Far below, the dragon gnaws, tireless. And between them, the little squirrel keeps running, because that's what it does. Gods fall. Worlds burn. But the gossip continues. You can almost picture Odin standing there at the tree's base, staring upward, one eye gleaming faintly in the dim light, wondering how long it all will last. Maybe he already knows. The Norns have carved his fate into the bark, after all. But he keeps showing up, keeps leading, keeps pretending that knowledge makes the inevitable easier to bear. It doesn't, of course. But it gives him something to do while waiting for the end. And that's the quiet brilliance of Norse myth. It never pretends that things will be fine forever. It promises instead that they'll be fine for now, and then they'll end, and then something new will grow from the ashes. The universe breathes, the tree creaks, and existence rolls on. There's comfort in that. The acceptance that life, like Yggdrasil, bends under its own weight but keeps growing anyway. If you've ever looked at a tree and felt that odd wordless calm, the sense that it's older than you, slower than you, and not particularly concerned with your deadlines, you already understand Yggdrasil. The Norse just gave that feeling a name and a mythology. So, as the wind hums through its leaves, and the stars shimmer faintly between the branches, you can rest easy knowing that the universe, at least in this mythic form, is holding together just fine. The gods are arguing, The dragon is chewing, the squirrel is spreading rumors, and somewhere beneath it all, life goes quietly on. The great tree stands. And when you fall asleep tonight, you might imagine yourself sitting beneath its roots, where the air is cool and the earth smells faintly of frost and moss. You can hear water dripping from the Well of Urd, the faint scratch of Ratatosk's claws on bark, the whisper of fate being woven by unseen hands. You're part of the tree too, one leaf among countless others, swaying gently in a breeze that has been blowing since the beginning of time. The world is large, but it's also just one thing. One tree, one life, one endless cycle of light and dark. So, close your eyes. Let the wind of the 9 worlds fade to a soft murmur. The branches stretch above you, the roots below. The gods grow quiet. The stars fade behind the leaves. Yggdrasil stands still, holding everything together for another night. Sleep well. The world will keep turning. The tree will keep standing. And if it creaks a little, it's only dreaming.